All right. Good evening, everybody. Thank you for joining us this evening. Let's see here. We are recording. You all should have gotten that as you entered the room. And it's 7:30, so let's get started. Brian, you're manning the guest room. Is that
We'll
correct?
keep an eye on it.
Thank you very much, sir. So again, Craig Peterman with BadgerBots Robotics. We've got Emily Luffy here, also with BadgerBots. And as the other Brain Trust member, we got Brian Farrell, one of our two state judge advisors. What are you? We're in the off season. I'm not thinking straight. Anyway, so thank you, Brian, for being here. All right. Obviously, there's a lot of things or a lot of uncertainties going on with the future of the FLL program. We're just trying to communicate and stay a little bit ahead of the curve, at least as much as we can. And that, of course, is why we're having these meetings to get some questions answered, let you know what we do know, which, quite frankly, still is not a whole lot, but we'll keep the back and forth going for as long as we need to, and certainly until the season begins, so on and so forth. All right, so real quickly, some of the materials for the upcoming season have already been given to us. Not a ton of them, but at least some of the basic ones. And I am glad to say that it is very similar to all the prior seasons. The rubrics are essentially the same. I haven't gone through them word by word. Brian, I don't know if you got the chance yet to do that.
No,
Um, the 30 minutes, the robot game, everything is looking um, very similar to what we are accustomed to. Obviously, there's a new theme, BioGlow. We'll get more details about that at the kickoff in early August. So that's the good news. So far, things are going to according to the plan that was given to us. Um, if you paid attention to the newsletter and other first communications, they are first is redoing the dashboard, the interface. I can't even remember what project they call it, whatever. It should be open for registering your teams starting in July. That's the only data we have. So it could be beginning of July, end of July. It's July. So we'll all just have to wait on that together. Also, in today's newsletter, we put in the cost. This is the first registration, is going up $10 for both Challenge and Explore. And to be clear, I'm really just talking about the Founders Program. Recall, we are not going to have any events. We, as in BadgerBots, are not sponsoring any events that will, work with the futures, the Lego CSAI robot. We will not be having any events that fit that particular robot. So please continue to spread the word, especially among new teams. Stay with the Spike Primes or the EV3s if needed, because you at least get 3 years out of usage from those robots. Whereas with the CSAI, you may only get 1 year use out of it, and that's not a great investment because next year, I promise you, the K through 8 program will not be compatible with the Lego CSAI robot. So stick with the Founders Program would
okay.
be
Yeah,
our
Jim, go.
recommendation.
So when you wake up at 1 a.m. Yeah, what do you hold on? What are you actually going to bed?
Oh,
Yeah.
background
Okay.
noise, John.
What are you doing tomorrow? Well, working out.
All right, thank you. Um, so that's what we have for the upcoming season. Business as usual, a little bit more expensive. Kickoff is early August. Any questions about those very generic and not very much information? But nonetheless, that's what we've got at the moment. And if not, we'll just move right into the primary purpose of this call, which is to go over the survey results to date. We had, as of the download this morning, we had 23 responses. We had another three or four later on in the day. Those are not included in the data that we're going to talk about, but we still encourage coaches, as we did today in the newsletter. Both Emily and Allison will be representing the Wisconsin FLL program at the PDP conference in Philadelphia, starting, I believe it's June 8th. So 8th or 9th. So we've got time for more feedback, for more entries, but on the 8th, we're going to have to start really going through it and kind of cut it off because it is our intention to take that data directly to first and say, this is what we did. This is the feedback we got from our coaches. Um, you know, and not only that, Emily and Allison will be taking that feedback into the sessions during this conference, giving direct feedback as they work through the program for the 27-28 season. So a lot of the questions that were on our survey were directly taken from an email, basically, that first sent us. Very much open-ended. So you can, basically any suggestion, feedback you have the opportunity to give it to us. And then we will compile all those answers and then have a game plan as we go talk to the other PDPs around the country. I actually believe this one's international, so it might even be around the world, but I think they have a separate program. Nonetheless, PDPs in the United States to develop the program for 27-28 season and going forward. All right. So that's why we did it. Like I said, we have about 300 challenge teams, a little more than 300 challenge teams in the Wisconsin region. If we get up to 30 plus 40, more than 10% response rate, I think that's actually a pretty good sample. So we're not quite there yet, but we do hope to get there. If you haven't done it and you're on this call, please do it. Thank you. All right. So what I wanted to do was, Emily, any other comments? Sorry, I didn't mean to put you on
Nope.
the spot like that.
Nope. Nope. Not yet. I think that was a good one.
Okay. So let's just jump right into the data. And I'm going to try and share my summary sheet here. And this is just the numerical data. Um, Obviously, we have a lot of entries, many of which are, a lot of good suggestions, a little bit on the lengthy side, which is fine. We never set a limit on anybody's ideas. But those ideas will be, maybe they'll come up in discussion here. And they certainly will be considered when the discussions happen in Philadelphia with the other PDPs. But for right now, these are just the numerical scores, and I will zoom that in. So the bottom line conclusion that I came to is that of the 23 responses, you guys really like this program, which is great. It actually made me feel really good that you guys you appreciate the aspects of the program, a couple tweaks here and there, but by and large, you want to keep the fundamental basis the same. And we'll go through these relatively quickly, but because I want to leave plenty of time for questions. But that's the bottom line. So here are all the aspects up top where coaches agree. And this is so agree is, if you remember from the survey, those of you that took it, that would include strongly agree and agree. All right. Disagree would be both the disagree and strongly agree answers. And as you can see from these top sections, there was a lot of agreement. Um, what I thought was kind of interesting was so the practice rounds, which we implemented, 2 years ago, I think. Um, we knew it was positive, well received at the regionals, and we actually did away with it at champs last year. So I thought, well, let's see what happens if we ask the question. But as it turns out, The coaches overwhelmingly liked the practice round, even in the advanced rounds. So maybe we needed to, break out the championship for a little more granularity. But at least at the moment, we're thinking, all right, maybe we keep the practice round even for the sectionals and championship. All right. So again, that was an interesting data point from my perspective. The rubrics. This is kind of interesting because I think those of you that have judged before, which is many of you, I was thinking that maybe you'd want a 5 point scale or a 6 point scale or something a little more, give you a little more flexibility. But again, the response was overwhelmingly stay with the 4 point scale. Okay, great. Don't have to make any changes on that regard. With regards to the 30 minutes in front of the judges, it was overwhelmingly consistent. We had a handful make it more, a handful make it less, but by and large, 74% keep it 30 minutes. So you can see from all those up front that there was a lot of consistency. I found it very interesting on using AI, where everybody was against making it the cornerstone of a cornerstone of the program. Um, in the commentary, there were, yes, we should use AI as a tool, but it shouldn't be judged. It should be relatively limited, I guess is the word I might consider. So once again, agreement on a lot of facets. Any questions on the top section where coaches strongly agreed? All right. If not, let's move on to where FLL coaches mostly agreed. And this is interesting. And again, we tried to throw out a lot of different ideas. Some of them come from the history of the FLL program, some things that used to exist that don't exist anymore. And again, this is skewed towards, or I should say, the results are skewed towards coaches agreeing, but not as overwhelming as in the previous categories. And I get feedback from various people over the course of the year. How come we don't evaluate in the pits anymore? Why isn't there a core values challenge that the kids have to do in front of judges? So I figure, all right, let's find out what the coaches think. And it turns out, yeah, there's a little bit of bias towards doing some of those things, but it really wasn't overwhelming. So you can read those for yourself. Any questions on those four categories?
This is Amy, from Pewaukee. I haven't had a chance to take the survey yet, so forgive me. But um, I just
Don't
want to
let
make
these
sure I got
skew
on the
your
call.
results.
I'm gonna skew them on purpose, just for you.
Oh, okay.
No. So I just want to make sure that I'm understanding this. You're gonna take all of this that you're getting from us, and you're gonna take it to a meeting that you're having with all the heads, right?
Correct.
Is there a
Well, not
chance
me.
that some of this stuff might come back, like doing the 2 15-minute sessions and stuff? Is there a chance that it could change back to the way it was several years ago?
At the moment, as far as I can tell, and Emily, correct me if I'm wrong, the 27-28 season is a blank slate. They
Cool.
are asking
Okay.
us, PDPs across the country, wide open questions to the extent that they're asking, should we even have an innovative project?
Oh.
So
Okay.
anything anything is possible.
Okay. Cool. Thank you.
Yep. Yep.
So it
So
seems
in
like the
fact,
2 15-minute sessions, that's actually been piloted around the country too. That's not even a brand
yep.
new concept.
So to Amy's specific question with the 2 15-minute sessions, that's what Illinois did 2 years ago. Supposedly they went to 2 10-minute sessions. I didn't confirm that, but that's at least what I was told. I believe Iowa went to two 15-minute sessions, and I believe other regions, again, they were all quote unquote piloting the process, but that's what they did. So I offered it to the rest of the brain trust at the beginning of last season, and I got overruled. So there's a lot of I think there's a lot of beneficial things to doing that. So we'll see what happens. I think ultimately that's the way first will go, because the feedback that I got from the PDPs that were going to the two 15-minute sessions was overwhelmingly positive. So I hope they do a good job of explaining why, and maybe that will become the norm. All right. Any other questions? All right. Let's move into the well, not bottom section, but where coaches are mixed. And again, some of these, the raw data, it was a handful strongly agree, a handful agree, a handful in all the different categories. And so basically, we're just kind of as a group undecided. You're obviously everybody's entitled to their own opinion, but there's no real strong bias one way or another from the 23 participants of the survey. Well, there was one here that was kind of interesting to me. Well, I mean, they're all interesting, but I always thought that having more alliance play where you could have joint missions, I thought the bias would be much stronger, positive in that regard, but it was, relatively neutral. The right now, as you all know, the FLL program is all autonomous mode. You pre-program, you hit the button, it runs. Well, would it be beneficial to have a driver controlled piece to it? And some of the comments were, well, these kids already play enough video games, so no, we'll stick with the pre-coding and autonomous mode. So, and then the first one here with regards to core values and a challenge. This was something that was done years ago. This was back when I was a coach. And the kids had a physical challenge that they had to do in front of the judges so that they could potentially assess the team dynamics. How do they cooperate? How do they communicate with each other? How do they respect each other? So on and so forth. That was taken away out of the program, and I thought there might be a little bit more interest in that. But again, very much neutral with a broad spectrum. So, any questions about the mixed areas? I would just say we would not aggressively argue for anything in that particular category because we don't really have a consensus amongst the interested parties. All right. So then the last section from the survey, and again, for those of you that came late, we're just talking about the numerical questions. There were a lot of open-ended questions, so it's going to take some time to get all those together and do a cohesive thought process. But the last one was we gave you guys the opportunity to weight the program according to the champions ranking, the way you think it should be done. And incredibly enough, I would say that you guys the coaches seem pretty happy with the 25% across the board. The only deviation, which I highlighted in both red and green there, is a modest increase in the robot game at the expense of core values. So, and a lot of that had to do with um, again, one coach had 0 at core values, another coach had 0 at innovative project, and then had 50% in the robot game. So it just depends. But the average was very consistent with what the current program is. And in fact, and Emily, correct me if I'm wrong, but the overwhelming response was 25% across the board. It was just a handful of ones here and there that skewed the numbers. So I guess the bottom line conclusion from my perspective is that of the 23 responses, you kind of like the program the way it is. Don't screw it up, is kind of the message that we got to send to first. All right. Any questions about the survey results? And if not, then we'll just open it up to any other ideas, questions, anything that you guys want to talk about. I mean, to be honest, I thought this was going to be a much longer discussion. There'd be much wider dispersion in results, but apparently not, at least not so far. All right.
So what are you getting back as feedback from First on what they actually want this program to be, right? Because there is a, from a make it easy for teachers perspective, I absolutely understand why they would go with the AI kit because there's a lot less invention required. And also if there's no innovation project, you don't have to help kids work on, 7 different projects of different themes. And it's just more taxing on the teacher. If you're like a lay coach like me or whatever you want to call it, um I think, and coming from an engineering background, like this is basically a senior design project on steroids because it's a bunch of little kids who know nothing, but they want to know everything and they want to try to see if they can make something real out of it, right? So I mean, really what they have going on right now is a senior design project plus a coding slash building exercise. So are they planning to shift that based on what you're seeing right now?
We are seeing right now is nothing. We are in the infancy stage of this discussion, and Emily and Allison will have the first crack at what direction this is all headed. What I can share, and I don't want to call it speculate, I think it's a little stronger than speculation. The CSAI definitely took the program down a different path. And that path is what led to the divorce. So my intuition and bits and pieces here and there tell me that First wants to keep much of the core program intact. And the CSAI path wasn't going to do that. So, but as far as tangible uh, information directly from First, at the moment, we don't have any. We'll get it in Philadelphia. Emily and Allison will.
I also just want to emphasize, I mean, what they are proposing that we're discussing in Philadelphia specifically is mostly they're opening the door to us basically, and they're asking us what our regions want, what they like about the program, what they don't like about the program. So I don't know necessarily that we will have very much to bring back. What it seems like is that there's going to be a lot of discussion in Philadelphia. So I wouldn't say that we would have solid answers coming back from it, but hopefully we will have something more than we have currently, if that makes sense.
I mean, I'm not going to Philadelphia, but I really think this is just, yeah, you're going to have interesting discussions in Philadelphia, but First is going to have a lot of discussions on this data back in New Hampshire. And, I don't really expect to hear anything real till champs next year.
It's hard to say. And as a bit of a disclaimer, we are going to be under NDA for a bit from this conversation. So there are going to be some limits to what we are able to share right away. So just so folks are aware that there might be a little bit of a delay in what we can bring back from Philadelphia.
But already, what everybody has shared on the survey has been tremendously helpful. And I have already really enjoyed reading ones that I have been able to read, and I'm excited to dive more into what people have. So please continue to put your thoughts and your ideas there, or feel free to email them, and I'd love to have them so that we can best share what the community in Wisconsin wants for First going forward.
What else?
Is there anybody on this call right now that feels like the program just isn't working? I mean, we finally in Pewaukee, we finally figured out the secret sauce, right? Figured out what it takes to move on, what it takes for the kids, what they have to do as coaches, how we need to lead them, and mentor them. And, I would personally love it to stay just the way it is. Because the innovation project, I feel like our kids are learning so many really cool things and they're thinking outside of the box. So like I love the robot game, like that's normally what I am the mentor for, but I'm really starting to get into the innovation projects because these kids come up with some pretty crazy ideas that actually work. So like from my perspective as a coach and a coordinator, I like it the way it is. Maybe we could add like some 3D printed parts in there, or because they're always doing their innovation projects, they go right to the 3D printing, right? Well, what if they could make parts for their robot that were 3D printed, and stuff like that. And I'm just wondering, like, obviously, we don't get to see as a coach or a coordinator, we don't get to see all the comments, but like this is a group of people who can talk about it freely, like you know is there something better that we can add to the survey so that when you guys go to Philadelphia, um, you have more background or whatnot? And I'm just wondering, like, how are the other coaches feeling? You know, I don't like the AI stuff. I think the AI stuff takes away from what first is always like drilled into our brains. And if we could get our FLL kids ready for like FTC or FRC, like with the judging in the pits and more of the core value stuff and that kind of stuff, I think that will prepare our students for high school and for later middle school.
So
Yeah, I have
you actually,
to
oh,
go
go
ahead.
ahead. Go ahead,
I was
Jen.
gonna say I have to agree with you because his freshman year, Jonathan came straight from FLL. He got asked, he was in the pit by himself and was asked questions by judges. And just from his years of experience in FLL, he actually did a decent enough job that they got callbacks. So I'm saying something in this methodology of FLL is working to prepare these kids from FTC and FRC much better than a forensics or other path of kind of speaking on your feet, displays of, sportsmanship, stuff like that. I agree that like if the intention of the program is to be a feeder, which I thought that was the intention of the program is to be a feeder into FTC and FRC and eventually STEM programs, then it seems to me like the suggestion of about enabling 3D printed something or other in this makes sense. And I will say that my daughter can 3D print better than a lot of these FRC kids because she's gotten so much experience over the last 3 years doing that for our projects for FLL. So I think that there is value in that comment that if we can allow the kids to make customized robotics parts in addition to the project element, because that's where we're using all the 3D printed, other like Raspberry Pi, etc. All that has to go through the project right now because there is no outlet for it in the robot. So if they do decide to get rid of the project element, how do you bring those other things that the kids are learning, as well as the, situational awareness and cultural impact of your work into the robot game? Right now, the robot game does not do any of that. There's no need for the kids to dive deeper and understand like how their work impacts the community without the innovation project.
So I don't want to interject into this too much because this is a really cool conversation. But one thing that we got from first to like prepare for the conference was some of the ideas they were kicking around. And one thing in relation to the innovation project was, are there ways to tie the innovation project and the robot game together a little bit better? So one of the ideas that Nick and I were kicking around was in college robotics, we did like Mars rover design builds. And we had a challenge where we had to use our robot to gather information about the environment and then present on that using equipment that we'd made to judges. So like maybe The robot game, you could uncover some data about next year's biodiversity environment stuff. So you could gain information about the environment and then use that for their projects. Like that is an idea coming from FIRST that I think could be really cool, as one of those ways to kind of bridge that kind of line through our program right now. It's something cool that might happen. We don't know.
So in the survey, we had this question, attachment creation and development should not be restrictive. And as you can tell, it was overwhelmingly, yeah, let's do it. And part of the reason is because Lego was Lego. And that's why Lego parts were required for the robot. Once you get rid of Lego, does that not open up the whole universe to do whatever you want to do? I think that would be amazing. That would be an awesome development. With regards to the project or just the overall program, let me just be perfectly clear that BadgerBots likes the foundation of the program the way it is with the project, with core values. If the new program makes major changes to any one of those, like, reduces it to being irrelevant, we're going to have some serious discussions on uh, whether we continue to operate in this same mode. To us, what you coaches were just previously describing is the real value of developing these kids. You're teaching them to speak in public. You're teaching them to think outside the box. You're teaching them how to research. There's so much more to this program than just the robotics piece of it. And yeah, I know when you get up into high school, it gets a little more narrow. You still have the, business side and whatever, all that other stuff, but it's still very much robot driven. Here is a program where you're developing these skills while they're young and can learn and can improve. So to us, that is the key aspect of the program. Like I said, if there are any major changes to that, we're going to have some real tough discussions. We don't anticipate it happening, but we need to keep, well, I'll be honest, when CSAI came out, we had some discussions. Is this the direction that we want to go? And fortunately, that was solved in 2 months later with the divorce. So, based on what we saw in the survey results, we at BadgerBots are 100% with you. What else?
Hi, this is Sue Oniger. Can you hear me? Hi.
Yep.
As we think about this program, something that I've, as a coordinator, thought a lot about is what we expect of our coaches. And I'm talking about the coaches that, for example, at one school, we have 42 kids who are interested. So that's, recruiting people who know nothing about the program and bringing them on board. And that's a really hard thing. And even as we stand, and I love that you guys have coach calls and I love the coach conference and I love all that stuff. But for, a busy parent of a sixth grader, who's hauling kids around to, everything else, it's too much. And I've had, coaches express that and feel a little disappointed in us when we say, well, it's easy. Here's some guidelines and the kids do it all. And we know that's not true. I mean, the kids do all the work, but there's a lot of preparation that goes into that. So I guess what I would want is just some deep, realistic thought about how we get community and parent volunteers to do this, but to do this in a reasonable amount of effort and time.
Well, so in fact, Sue, you hit the nail on the head as far as what is our biggest obstacle for getting more kids involved, more teams involved. It's the coaches and the parents or teachers stepping up to be coaches. It doesn't even matter if it's school district or a home team, because even if it's at a school district, you got to find a teacher that's willing to stay after school or however that they're going to do it. And it's not easy. Now, I don't know whoever said coaching FLL team is easy, but they needed perhaps a refresher course themselves. It is not easy. In the survey, in fact, there were quite a few comments about we need more resources. And so maybe we need to have some sort of a subcommittee of coaches because, I mean, here's the conundrum that we face. One, obviously, we have the resources from FIRST. We're trying to create more resources at BadgerBots. We have the Zoom calls, we have the videos, we have the newsletter, we have a variety of different things, and the Slack channel, and some coaches participate or pay attention to various degrees, and it's hard to reach everybody. So my question to the coaching community is, I mean, think back to the days when you were a new coach. What can we do within reason that would help your experience? And that's a legitimate open-ended question. I mean, I don't want to spend 2 hours talking about it tonight, but if we need to have another meeting, discussion, a subset of people that want to participate, we're more than happy to do that.
It seems like the
Raise
rookie,
your hand.
it seems like the rookie coaches most benefit from a schedule that gets them to their first event. So, and a loose rubric that says what they need to have done by a certain amount of time and some starter documents. So typically with my rookie teams, I point them immediately to the framework on FLLtutorials.com, which has all sorts of preseason stuff and different like tables that the kids can use to collect data, etc. So pointing them towards those resources that already exist is hugely helpful to those teams. And then kind of giving them an idea of what good might look like and what it takes to get there and what different things have to be done and how much to actually bite off so they can have a somewhat finished project. So trying to go from an experienced veteran team to a rookie team a couple of years ago, I realized how much framework is necessary on a rookie team just to get everybody aligned and going in the same direction. So maybe that's a simple example, path to your first competition, not a rubric, but like a timeline that might be helpful to some of these coaches. As far as getting them more resources, if they're not already using all the awesome resources you're giving them, then they don't want the help. That's kind of where I'm at, right? I mean, you guys do such a nice job trying to connect us all together. You can't solve a problem for somebody who doesn't think they have a problem that needs to be solved and actually trying to get help for it. So I don't know if there's anything that BadgerBots explicitly needs to do differently is my point.
Can I chime in on this?
Yep. Heather.
Yes. So first of all, Jen, I think the timeline is awesome. And having seen what you do for the Explore timeline, I want that for all of my no experience rookie parent coaches. So I think that would be super helpful. But my point I was going to bring up is exactly what Jen has just kind of said is I think we have the resources. And I think what happens, because most of the people I was working with last year had zero first experience. One had, done an Explore team before, but it's a huge jump from Explore to Challenge. And we did a series of 3 weeks of 3 meetings, one on each area. So we basically ran a project practice for all of them together and brought in an expert and went through the whole process of brainstorming. And we did that for each of the areas. And even with that kind of stuff, and like I was emailing and I went to at least one practice for each team and just trying to really be there for them. Like most of them didn't get on the calls. Most of them, we were giving them all this information and I think it's so overwhelming that, like you said, a busy parent, I think Sue said that, a busy parent doesn't necessarily go use those resources. So I think a lot of it comes down to like truly trying to mentor them and having coaches who've been there, done that, willing to kind of do the email check-ins or, phone call, a quick text, to keep them on. But I think a timeline thing would be super awesome to hand them, to give them a more realistic idea of where you should be at any given point.
You kind of touched on one thing that I was really wanting feedback from coaches about, which was would there be veteran coaches that would be interested in a kind of like mentorship for new coaches? Would like a structured mentorship program where veteran coaches mentor and give one-on-one attention to new coaches be helpful? Is that something that we could help facilitate? Would that be something people would be interested in?
So, in Pewaukee, Robin and I do that. So our rookie coaches, if they come in at fourth grade or even at fifth grade, Robin and I are the leader of the team. So that's why you see Robin and I at just about every single regional. And we get them started out and we stay with them for 2 years. So fourth and fifth grade, we're there to support them, whatever they need. And after the first year, if they're good and they understand it and they're ready to rock on their own, go ahead, call us if you need us. But what we found is that number one, we're retaining coaches, we're retaining them because they know they have someone to fall back on. They know they can call us at any point in time and we will be there at the meeting. And if we had a greater group, like right now, we have a lot of our kids are aging out, they're going to FRC, and those coaches are like, well, what am I going to do now from August till January? Like, I have all this free time. What can I do to give back? And if we could get a group of veteran coaches that are willing to help those rookie teams, I think it would be greatly beneficial. Once we figured out what FLL tutorials was, it's like, oh my God, why haven't we been doing this forever? So I think there are resources out there. Maybe if we combine them into a nice handbook to give to coaches like in May or June to kind of look at, I think that might help. And then maybe facilitating the veteran coaches or the coordinators that have done this for several years, helping those rookie teams. I think that would be totally beneficial for our program within the state.
So I've now heard of at least two resources that you all know about that I've never even heard of. And my broader point there is we need your help to disseminate that information. So, I mean, the first thought that comes to mind is we do have an FLL page at badgerbots.org, and we could very easily put some of these, have a resource section and have coaches send us your resources that you're willing to share. I don't know. Maybe I'm biting off more than we can chew, but we certainly can try.
Yeah,
But we
like I
don't even
have
know what's out there.
some of these websites that are being referenced. A lot of them are the Shushin brothers, Spike Prime lesson or SpikeLessons.org and FLL tutorials. We did put those all on a handout for our coaches with kind of a description of like, you would go here for this, right? You go to the first dashboard for this, you go here to this link if you need to copy the engineering notebook, you need, all of the different things. So I didn't realize that, like, I guess I didn't even think about that's probably not anywhere on our Slack channel or on our, your BadgerBots thing or in our newsletter, but that would be something that hopefully a coach that doesn't have kind of an area leader could help them find them if they're not, part of Share and Learn on Facebook or something.
Absolutely.
Yep, please email us any resources that you could share to help us maybe think about a structure on the website to being able to start sharing them. We'd really appreciate it.
Just one thing. We were a rookie team starting it brand new at our school, and I know at least for me personally, what I struggled with was information overload. Is there was Slack, there's Teams calls, there's so many sources coming in, and I go, I don't even know what I need to be looking for to understand. So, discussion about a beginning coach guidebook with a timeline. Here's kind of as a coach, what you should be helping with, and here are things that you should not, where you shouldn't go too far in this area and do too much to help. So even just trying to figure out that balance of what help is appropriate versus going too far was kind of a struggle to figure out. So any kind of one-stop shop to go, you're a new coach, walk through this document first. I think that would be helpful because again, there were so many sources of information. It was too much to absorb as we were trying to figure out how do I even teach the teams and kind of get them off the ground.
One thing I just thought of to add to your list, Emily and Craig, that I realized I didn't put in the survey, but might be good feedback for first. I think part of the reason so many of us love FLL tutorials is because of how it's set up and the way the worksheets are. Like you can pull a worksheet just for specific testing, like for kids to be able to easily collect it. There's just different things there. But I will say I started coaching before there was the first engineering notebook, and I know they're going to just be digital now. But in some ways, I don't feel like real coaches put that together. I don't feel like that engineering notebook takes kids through what the journey of FLL has been for my teams. It doesn't take them from beginning to start for how a season, like what I envision Jen's timeline looks like. So I would give first feedback that I know they're trying to write one kind of a book or leader guide that can work for many, many different kinds of situations. But I think they need more coaches involved with putting that together. What does it realistically look like? And what do you need to do to take a team through? Because right now, I don't feel like their leader guide and their engineering notebook is all that helpful at the challenge level. I think their Explore one is pretty good, but I think the challenge level is not. And it could be improved, in my opinion.
Well, they kind of pretend you can finish it all in 10 sessions. Yeah, you can. It just won't be a viable offering at a regional to move on. Right. So, I mean, I think they underestimate the amount of time the kids need to spend actually deep diving into the problem statement, the coding, all that kind of stuff. And I mean, maybe having schedules showing that progression of experienced teams might take this amount of time and focus on these areas, and less experienced time spend most of your, first month doing this versus that. Trying to help time management or give suggestions for time management up front might be helpful for some of these coaches, because right now it's that stuff is very much imbalanced for sure. I agree with Heather.
So the engineering notebook and team meeting guide that first provides is of marginal value. Is that a fair statement? It needs improvement, that's for sure.
I can honestly say, Robin and I read through it. We have our core coach meeting before the season actually kicks off, and we kind of go through the last season's book, and we kind of create our own adventure without it, because the kids don't really get into it. They're like, what's this workbook? What are we supposed to be doing today? Can we just research, X, Y, and Z? Why do we have to go through this manual, so to speak? And then it kind of gets tossed to the side. The robot game book is amazing. They actually annihilate that book. And they eat it up. But like even the team meeting guide, when Robin and I were trying to get more parents and adults in our district involved, they were like, well, what do we do next then? And it's like, well, then you just kind of think outside the box and you let the kids choose their adventure, and you just keep them within somewhat of a time frame, but the kids do the work. So you can't keep them to this timeline, because they're going to go off on an adventure that you're not going to be able to stop, and you're not going to want to stop it, because it could become a championship project. I can say that Pewaukee doesn't really use the books at all at the challenge level. We do use them at the Explore level, because those kids are used to worksheets and workbooks and that, because they're in elementary school. They're, kindergartners, first graders, third graders, whatever. But our challenge kids, they'd rather go on the internet and search up how to do something than to actually read the book and figure out how to do it. Besides the robot game, that book is amazing.
Yep. I don't know, add to that too, that I'll have coaches that are so excited because they think they have that nice guidebook, and I try to gently warn them that it might not give them everything they want. And sure enough, within a couple weeks, they've, they've kind of pitched it aside and are just kind of winging it at that point. Yeah, I tend to try to give them that rubric and help them see the things they need to accomplish at the end more, and wait for them to ask questions, and then they attack the robot game over and over and over, and I can't get them to touch the project. But yeah, those books just, yeah, I don't know that we've had anyone get past page 2 in the team meeting guide and the engineering notebook personally.
We don't use them at all either. I don't think any of my rookie coaches last year used them at all.
So my comment of marginal value seems to overestimate their value. All right.
In my
Well,
experience,
I mean,
yes, but I'm sure someone has used it and loved it.
all right, just not on this particular call. Well, I mean, think about it this way. First is expending a considerable amount of resources putting those together. If you're telling me they're not useful, then First needs to know that. So, yeah, we will share that information. All right. Anything else? Anything else that you need us to take to Philadelphia? Or I should say, Emily and Allison.
Okay. I've got one question,
Yep.
and maybe this is the elephant in the room a little bit, is I'm concerned about the robotics platform having the same magic that Lego had with the kids. There's something about it that goes beyond, it's not cerebral, there's cerebral things about it, but it's got a certain magical, it's the flashy, shiny things that attracts people. And I'm just concerned that whatever replaces it has the same appeal and is not going to scare away kids. Sometimes when they see a circuit board or they see wiring and that sort of thing, it's great maybe for the older kids, but maybe for some of the younger ones or the ones that have not been around technology or have limited leadership that maybe can't help, that it might scare those away. And it may be a bigger divide between the ones that have and have the technology and the 3D printers and such. Is it going to be accessible to the people that don't have the resources? And will they be attracted to it like they are to Lego? Because that's pretty magical, really. And I'm just hoping that whatever replaces it has that same magic.
Yeah. My initial reaction is, John, no, it's not. I mean, Lego is Lego. Every kid grows up, well, maybe not every kid, but you know what I mean. It's so popular, right. And that's kind of what the initial draw of the program has been.
Right.
And I can speak for BadgerBot's Lego camps. Our director says as soon as you put Lego into the headline, it sells out in a matter of hours. So, yeah, I mean, First knows what they lost with regards to the relationship with Lego. But on the other hand, it now opens up the door to look at all the other opportunities. And as we all know, Lego is not exactly the cheapest partner either. Every Spike Prime was expensive, all the parts were expensive. The registration has to cover Lego's piece of the action. So again, First is going to have to grapple with the pros and cons, if in fact they even choose to go with another partner. That's not even a done deal. I know they're looking at things, but I have no idea who. Yeah, I would argue let's leave it open for a couple of years and let teams choose which robot they want or which platform they want to go for. You know, you could reduce the cost of the program pretty substantially if you go with something a little bit less. But I don't know. I think you're right, John. That's the risk that First has. Membership, team registrations may take a hit, but I think at the end of the day, because of the program the way it is, it's more than just the robot. So I'm hoping that continues to carry us and keeps the coaches, the teachers vested in the program. It's not just the robot. That's kind of what I'm hoping. So we'll see.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
Well, we're coming up on an hour here. If there isn't anything else, yeah, kind of the same old, same old. Pay attention to the newsletter. That's where information will come first, and then we'll go to potentially go to the Slack channel and put it there. As far as the hierarchy of information, we know that every coach is getting the newsletter, or at least they're receiving it. We're sending it to them. Whether they read it or not is in their hands. Not everybody is on the Slack channel as much as we try to get them on the Slack channel. It's amazing what questions coaches have and can get them answered within 15 to 20 minutes in a normal day by experienced coaches. Because I will reiterate again, I personally am 10 years removed from FLL coaching, and I wasn't a very good one anyway. So the feedback that BadgerBots generally gives to coaches is go to the Slack channel, ask your question there, because I promise there are other coaches that are thinking the same thing that you are, and you'll get a better answer there than you will from me. So, or Emily for that matter, or any of the brain trust. Um, that's why we have the Slack channel in the first place, so you guys can help each other out. And we are going to rely on you to help us help them. All right, you guys all know how to reach me. You should have Emily's email as well, and any of the brain trust for that matter. Thank you for the 23 and growing number of participants in the survey. It gives us a direction to take the first. And as I think I mentioned earlier, I do plan on sending it to our first contacts before the conference. I want them to see our feedback before the discussions start. Whether or not they have time to look at it in great detail will be up to them, but I want to make sure they have it. This is what our coaches are saying. So, with that, the video will be up in a day or two. Please tell other coaches that you come across. Upcoming season is business as usual. Spike primes, EV3s can be used, and they will have at least a 3-year useful life within first programs. At least that's what they've been communicating to us. So we are going to share that on to you.
And
All right.
reminder, Wisconsin's only doing founders.
And Wisconsin is only doing founders. Yes. Thank you, Brian. All right. Good night, everybody. Thank you for participating, and thank you for all you do.